We got the report back discussing the pilot test at Chester River Hospital on the ground contamination, the heating fuel that leaked into the ground some 27 years ago. We gave copies of that to the Kent News and anyone else who was interested in it, including our geologist and our attorney. After they reviewed it, we had a meeting, me, the geologist, the attorney, and Bill, to discuss the report. And it appears to be a lot of smoke and mirrors. When it was turned over to us, the way that it was described was 18,000% improvement in removal. But they also explained to us how they got the 18,000%, is they cherry-picked the numbers to get that. So in all the pilot tests, during their withdrawals, when they were testing for the hydrocarbons, they took their best sample over that 1 week period and used it as their success number. And then they took the lowest historical number to compare that with. So if the lowest historical number was 0.1 and they came back with 350 as their highest number, that's where they did their calculations. Now, nothing about that seems representative to me of how the pilot test went, but that's an example of what we're trying to weed through in deciphering the pilot test report. Also, they represent in the pilot study report that the pilot study was done to see if the Ivy-Sol was effective and to see if the push-pull method is effective. And that was never my understanding. My understanding was that they were going to use that method to see if the Ivy-Sol was effective, not to see if the push-pull method was effective. The push-pull was the most convenient way to introduce the Ivy-Sol into the wells. So that's also misrepresented in the report because they're calling it a report, they're calling it a success for Ivy-Sol and for the push-pull method. I'm trying to find something in there that's good, and I'm not seeing it. 350 milligrams per liter removed on one sample, if that's the best they got, it's not telling us what they got over the total length of the pilot study test. We still have to sort through 1,200 pages of lab results to get that number. Also, in the report, they're saying that by putting 280 gallons of liquid into one of the wells, that it raised the groundwater elevation on the outside of the well 5 to 10 feet. That's an impossibility, physically impossible, because the volume that occupies will not raise it up 5 feet. You're not going to raise up in a cone on the outside on the aquifer. That aquifer is similar to a river in that it has a level. When you inject something into it or let water flow down in a column 300 gallons, you're not going to displace 25,000 gallons of water to make it mound up 5 to 10 feet. That's not possible. They also state in the report quite a few times the nearly non-existent product left in the ground up there, but it's still showing up on test after test. What they want to do in the future is they do not want to test for gasoline range organics. Gasoline range organics are what we've been getting detects on up at the hospital site. Those include benzenes, xylenes, and things that we're required to test for as part of the Safe Drinking Water Act. So we would certainly be opposed to them not testing for those items that we have to test for at the water plant. Their plan now that was submitted at the same time as the pilot study report, they submitted a plan to move forward to MDE in the same packet. That plan includes using the monitoring wells and recovery wells at the hospital in the same way they did these 4 wells in August. They want to use the IVSOL in the monitoring wells in this push-pull method. The problem with that is what they're actually doing isn't cleaning the site, it's cleaning the surrounding soils of the monitoring wells and making them not representative of the groundwater itself. Imagine you have a sponge, and that sponge is the dirt around those wells. You put the IVSOL down there and you clean the sponge. It's now free to absorb more contamination. If they make it 12 months, not getting a bad sample, they get to close the project out and walk away forever. That seems to be the goal. The goal is not site cleanup. The goal is get 12 months of good samples so we can walk away. That's the only reason I can think of for using those monitoring wells in that push-pull method, because you're not cleaning the entire site. Their own numbers don't show that they clean the site. And their numbers are remarkable on how far that 300 gallons of solution goes when they put it down a well. They would lead you to believe in their report that 280 gallons is cleaning approximately 100-foot radius in the groundwater. The problem with that is physically that 300 gallons doesn't even occupy a 15-foot radius. Best case scenario, does not occupy a 15-foot radius. So we're getting a lot of smoke and mirrors. The geologist and the attorney are working on notes so we can be prepared when we have our next meeting.